Yeah, I hope you're enjoying this edition of DXB today. Have you had a little glance around your room and said, is there more I could do with my interiors at the moment? Well, we are giving you that inspiration with a number of the leading minds of interior spaces here in Dubai. And to that end, our next guest clients are who's who of the hotel industry, the Kempinski, the Address, the Four Seasons, Caesar's Palace, Grand Hyatt. I could go on, but then we'd be biting into the interview time. And we have got Yasmin Farahmandy joining us this evening. Great to have you as always. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Well, you know, we were just talking about trends in general, and I know it's the one thing that, you know, designers don't want to be asked about. You know, what is the trend at the moment? But given that hospitality is such a sort of beating force here in Dubai, here in the UAE, here in the region as a whole, are there certain demands from hotels now? I mean, a couple have been mentioned already in the build-up and the intro to you. Katie mentioned a couple that are standouts for those in the region. But are there hotel trends when it comes to interiors at the moment?
I believe hospitality has evolved in the past couple of years. Before, it was all about brand alignment and DNA and how we can reflect it within the interior spaces. And today it's more about emotional connection. It's about spaces that tells a story. It's about how people feel within the space. And I see with a lot of hospitality is all the modern travelers, they're expecting more. It's not about, okay, I'm just gonna book a pretty room or a luxurious hotel. It's about what the hotel has to offer, what we're gonna experience. And with all the social media, everyone wants to post how they feel, what am I experiencing in this hotel, you know? It's their Instagram moment, you know, there is more to offer than just a beautiful bed that I'm gonna sleep on.
And I was gonna mention, it's so interesting you picked up on social media straight away, because when I think of, say, the classics like Mina Salam or JW Marriott Marquis, I just think of like the flowers when you walk in. I think, lovely, take a picture. But now it's another level of what is gonna get on the gram. Does that annoy you?
No, honestly, it's, you know, as designers, we evolve as well, because there is, you know, as the world around us gets advanced, whether it's technology or social media, we try to, you know, be ahead of the game and trying to advance that emotional aspect of interiors. So for example, Syra Hotel is about fitness. It attracts the crowd that they want to stay and have their personalized, you know, equipment in the room, have more facilities that I could have my, you know, my sauna, my jacuzzi, my classes, my personal trainer, but throughout the same stay. So you have a different experience. Today, as you speak to any other hospitality firms, they always want to cater to how a guest would feel from the moment they enter a hotel and what they're gonna feel when they leave the hotel, right? So they're really tailoring in terms of whether we are tailoring a perfume when you arrive. Is that the souvenir that you're gonna take home with you and you always remember about your stay and you always wanna come back, right? So I think it's amazing for us as designers. It's about aesthetic, yes, but it's about creating that moments at that memory for every single guest.
Okay.
Yasmin, how do you approach heritage design when it comes to hotels? So if you're working with a project like, say, the Four Seasons or Caesar's Palace, those brands are known worldwide. So how far can you touch on the design without then stepping into brand territory?
I mean, let's talk about Caesar Palace, right? Caesar Palace out of Vegas, we all know it. You know, there's a lot of heritage and brand DNA. You have a lot of that ancient Roman implemented, the fresco ceiling, the layering of those mosaic gold tiles and marble, right? When we started to do Caesar Palace in Dubai, we always focus on the DNA, the main elements of, you know, that heritage, whether it's that Caesar sculptures, is the gold and the black, the Roman drapery, right? And we try to modernize it to the modern guest, right? So we kind of grabbed the main elements and created a museum of, you know, Caesar sculptures around the hotel. We grabbed all the drapery to kind of create more intimate spaces and let the guest use the space in a different, how adapted to the guest, let's say. So they could have a living room where they could have their, you know, their coffee, or if they want to work, there is more higher table that they could, you know, have a quick lunch and do some emails. So you need to cater how humans behave within this space and adapt to their needs.
And how does it work in terms of, so we've gone into the hotels and hospitality, how does it work when it comes to restaurants in particular? Because that's one thing, I go to many different restaurants and it looks wonderful, but then when you sit down, you're sitting awkward and you want to eat in a certain way. How do you approach that end of things?
100%. I feel like designing for a hotel and restaurant, it kind of similar but different. You know, with restaurants, it's a lot about, let's say, trends that comes in, but again, it's about the brand. Again, it's about evoking emotions. It's about that energy and that vibe that you create within the space. We had our recent restaurant, Revolver, that is from Singapore. It's a top 50 restaurant. It's South Asian, amazing food. But interior, when we got on board, is how do I want the guests to feel when they enter that restaurant, right? It's about Revolver. People feel powerful, it's confident, it's masculine, you know, but it's about that wood fire cooking. And we created different spaces that I could have my booth seating where it's more intimate, or an open space where we, you know, curated a bullet belt chandelier that people can, you know, talk about, so there is a conversation. And then you have, you know, the biophilic design in terms of opening the terrace up and bringing the outdoor indoor, that you know, have different experiences, but again, trying to manipulate and evoke different senses in people. You know, is that sun, I'm having my drink outside, or it's inside, I want to look at the fire, but playing with different materials such as mirror that reflects that fire and that sensual, you know, experience within the space.
Yeah, we saw it earlier. Ash went down. It looked absolutely stunning. And another question I have, keeping with what Lane was saying about the restaurants, is lighting in restaurants. And I see, it's so funny, you've shook your head straight away, because I listen, I'm not so young anymore. And they give me a menu and I'm like, I'm getting my torch out on my phone, I can't see anything. There's a difference, isn't there, between kind of ambience and I can't see anything.
There is lighting, and I feel we as consumers and as designers, we are very aware that lighting can, you know, you can kill a concept or you can make a concept, you know. You can be super cold and make people uncomfortable, or you could make the people feel warm and welcomed, right? Now, that's one aspect. And then you look at decorative lighting, right? Features. And today, there's a lot of restaurants opening. Everyone's, you know, there are collectors, there are art collectors, there are car collectors, in whatever field. But when you go back to restaurants, there's always a feature because it creates conversation. We love to create places that connects people together, because with social media, yes, we're connected, but yes, we are isolated as well, right?
Yeah.
So